Hey, everyone on Facebook. Thanks for tuning in. I'm really excited to talk to you. I had that poll this week on what you wanted to hear about or talk about, and everybody seemed to pick why treatment doesn't work. And I'm excited about talking about that because, it's a big issue. We have, we were just at a conference and we had how many people that were just that were reported that died last year. I think it was 92,000 people that died last year. And a lot of them are from people that go through treatment numerous times and it doesn't work. And the last intervention I just did, I just did an intervention. The guy went through treatment at 31 years old. He went through treatment 31 times. So obviously something we're doing isn't working. Let's see here. Let me see who's on here. I just want to say thank you for joining us and say hi to you. I see a couple people there, 14 people already on and just joining. So let me see. I'm wondering sorry about this. This is our first time doing it, so I want to make sure it's done right. And answer any comments. So Eric's here too. Have you seen any comments or?
Yeah, Stephanie just commented. She said, "Hi Ken, thank you for doing this."
Hey Stephanie, thank you. So yeah, it just breaks my heart. Like I said, I just did that intervention 31 times to treatment, and trying every single time the family says, he's going to get it this time, he's going to get it, and then he leaves treatment early. And then he relapses. And again, it's not just the addict that feels like they failed, but it's also the family that feels like, oh my God, we had so much hope this last time and it didn't work. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? And I don't blame that on the families. I don't blame that on the addict. I blame that on us as an industry. Treatment centers have come a long way. I went to treatment in 1989. And when I got sober and I went to treatment, I've been sober ever since. And since 1989, there's been a lot more modalities out there. There's a lot more trauma work that wasn't even recognized. There's a lot more process addictions that, back then it wasn't even, known that there was process addiction. I mean, I was 10 years sober before I realized I was in a full-blown sex addiction. Love addiction. So, we've come a long way in treatment and have great new modalities. But the reality is people are still dying. People are dying. There's more people dying than there's ever been before. We just worked with a family and Eric, can you let me know if there's any questions, or if you have any questions or you're just tuning in, this is about why treatment doesn't work. I'm just going to turn this one off down here because
Karen said she thanks God she did it on her own, but she did go to see what treatment was like, and it was terrible. She couldn't wait to leave. These girls fought all the time and made it very difficult.
Oh, there it is. Yes, I agree. I mean, that's part of it. So thank you, Karen.
She's got 3 years.
3 years. Congratulations. Are you working a program?
And Brian also has 2 years.
Hey, Brian, congratulations on your 2 years. But the point being why I personally believe that treatment doesn't work and why it breaks my heart is that, we're sending people to treatment, and it used to be the 30-day model, then it went to the 90-day model. And even though they're there for 90 days, they are dealing with a trauma that happened when they were a little kid. They were little kids. There was some form of trauma that happened in their lives, and they grow up with all of this pain and all this discomfort. And when they do drugs, they finally feel normal. And now you think that 90 days of treatment is going to cure from a 4-year-old to a 24-year-old. It doesn't work that way. 90 days is not enough. And that's the reason why treatment hasn't worked, because it isn't consistent and long enough. One reason. So I'm going to give you about, how many reasons are we going to give tonight, Eric?
Oh,
5 reasons?
Sure.
5 reasons why it doesn't work. Because the first reason is that, it's impossible to cure the trauma and, you know, what people go through. There's a lot of treatment centers that specialize in trauma. So, you know, curing that trauma from a 4-year-old, or if there was a rape at 7 years old or 12 years old and all those years of using. I was just working with a mother that's, you know, almost going to be 40 doing crystal meth. So the reality is that that doesn't just go away. 90 days of treatment isn't going to cure that. That's number one. Should we write these down? Because I'm going to forget. No, I'm kidding.
And Christine says, yep, you hit the nail right on the head. And then Jeremy and Karen have joined the chat.
Hey, Jeremy. Hey, Karen. Thanks for checking in. And please chime in, because I want your input. I'm not doing this, you know, and if you chime in and you do this after I'm off, still put in your comments, because I'm going to be responding, you know, all week long, because I really want a solution. You know, I want to help these people stop dying from this disease. And I think it's going to take all of us. I don't have all the answers myself. I don't have the magic pill or the magic cure, but I think if all of us work together, we're going to have an answer and a solution to help people.
And Karen has a question on that.
Okay.
She's struggled. She has a oh, sorry, your comment just disappeared, Karen. But I think she had a 61-year-old who was in recovery, was doing well, but they've been to treatment, they've done all sorts of stuff, and it's still not altogether working. So what will work?
For a 61-year-old. See, there you go, Karen. Perfect example. Here we have somebody, you know, 61 years old, all that years of devastation and chaos, and we're going to get them into treatment and they're going to be cured. That doesn't work that way. So the first reason, treatment's not long enough. The second reason is because when people go to treatment because of some form of crisis in their lives. People don't go to treatment because they just got, you know, engaged, or they got a new job, or they got, you know, a new puppy. You know, these aren't the reasons why people go to treatment. They go to treatment because there's been a crisis in their life. Something bad has happened. So you'll go to treatment because maybe your spouse says, I'm going to leave you, or go die somewhere else. I'm not going to let you kill yourself in the house anymore. They'll go because, like I did, I got fired from my job. That's what motivated me to go to treatment. And I didn't know how I was going to pay my bills. Again, a crisis. So people go to treatment because there's a crisis. What ends up happening is that crisis is on their shoulder right here. It's sitting there. They hear it. Oh my God, I got to do something different. This is so painful. I don't know how I'm going to make this. And they finally surrender. That word surrender that, you know, every addict has to do. They finally surrender. They go into treatment for a week, 10 days, a month, 90 days. What ends up happening is that little voice that was the crisis dissipates. It's way back there now. That's not painful for them anymore. That's not in their awareness. What's in their awareness is what's on this side. This side is the voice saying, you know what? It really wasn't that bad out there. You know, I think I can control it now. I think that I got this. I know how to stop. I knew I always knew how to stop. So I know how to stop. So I think I got this. I'm just going to have a glass of wine. I'm not going to do that crystal meth that I used to do. I'm just going to have a glass of wine. So what ends up happening is they have that glass of wine, and a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month down the road, they're back on crystal meth or heroin or whatever their drug of choice was. So we don't have consequences that are consistent. And they have to be consistent. If they're not consistent and front and center for a period of time, then until you get to the point where you say, I really love my life in recovery and I don't want to use, so I don't care if that voice is telling me over here, it's okay to use. I don't want to use because my life is so amazing in recovery. That switch takes a long time usually. So the other voice, the consequence, dissipates, gone. But it's gone. There isn't anymore, right, Eric?
Yep.
Totally gone. The consequence is gone. Where we see success is the doctor diversion programs. The doctor diversion programs, they have a consequence. If they don't stay in recovery, they lose their licensure. The pharmacists, the nurses, the pilots, all of the high licensed professionals, if they don't stay in recovery, they lose their licensure. And they worked a long time to obtain that license, so they're not giving it up that easy. So that voice is playing in this side of their head saying, oh no, I'm not gonna lose that. I don't care about that drink. And then the voice over here comes on, one glass of wine ain't gonna hurt. Look, I'm at a work function and everybody else is drinking. So one glass of wine isn't gonna hurt. That voice over here is consistent and it's louder, saying, I don't care if everyone's having a glass of wine at dinner. I'm not gonna lose my license, so I'm staying in recovery. I'm not having that drink. So for them, they're getting a 75 to 82% success rate for doctors. I think nurses is about 60%,
Yep.
60, 65%. I think pilots are 92%. So because that voice is so loud, they have a reason to continue to stay on the path of recovery. So that's number two.
And before we go to number three, we
Uh-oh.
want to say hi to Helen, to
Hey,
Patty,
Helen.
Greg,
Hey,
have all
Greg.
come online. We have a couple people who agree it was consequences that really made them decide to change,
Yep.
and that they're still clean today. We did have two questions. Someone was asking if interventions are available in different areas.
Oh, absolutely. Interventions are available everywhere. I mean, all over I've done interventions in London. I've done interventions in Alaska, all over the world. So, you could do interventions anywhere.
Have you ever done one in Atlanta?
Atlanta, oh my God, yes, hello. Didn't you watch the last season of Intervention? I was down there in Atlanta, and we went down there and did a whole area of North Atlanta that was the triangle. And we intervened on the whole community. There was a bunch of people we got into treatment from Atlanta. So
would you say that it's more important to pick the interventionist who's right for your family than pick where the interventionist is from?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, was that the question?
Well, they were wondering about how do they find an interventionist, in their area.
So it really doesn't matter where the interventionist is from, because normally most people will take the person out of their area to go to treatment. So you're going to need to fly the interventionist in, do the intervention, and then the interventionist will fly them to treatment. So, it doesn't matter where the interventionist lives. It really matters, is it the right fit? Because I know as an interventionist, I'm not the right fit for everyone. I mean, we have a team of interventionists all over the country. So if I'm not the right fit, I'm going to help find the right fit, because it's really important that you have the right person working with you and your family. So good question.
Okay. And someone else had a question. You mentioned trauma and the link to addiction, but they said that what about someone whose addiction was because of prescription to pain meds and not trauma? Would treatment work for that person?
Absolutely. I always believed, I love this, because I used to always say, it's not about trauma. It's not about trauma. How dare you say it's about trauma? Because I've never been in any traumatic experience. I came up with a normal family, a normal, upbringing, never physically abused, mentally abused, sexually abused. None of those things happened to me. So I always thought that it wasn't about trauma. But at 4 years old, when I went out to kindergarten, I started getting bullied until I was 14 years old. So every day going to school, I would get bullied. I didn't realize that was a form of trauma. So there may be a form of trauma that you're not even aware of, like I wasn't for many, many years. So that could be it. Or maybe there is no trauma. Maybe you're right. Maybe there is no trauma. Maybe you got a back injury or a broken arm and you ended up taking pain medications, and then you couldn't stop. You became physically addicted. And if that's the case, that means treatment will be a little bit easier for you. It won't be easy, but it'll be a little bit easier because you're not having to dig down and do all that trauma work that's going to be necessary for long-term recovery.
That's great. And thanks to we got about 30 people watching right now. So if you have any other questions,
yes, please.
And Patty talked about, and this is a little off topic, but she talked about the consequence was the loss of respect that she had gained from her peers when she was using. Can you talk a little bit about what different types of consequences someone might have that we could look at to help them really make treatment, the proposal for treatment, much better?
That was from Patty?
Yep.
Thank you, Patty. Great question. So, you know, what ends up happening with consequences, like I said, they dissipate, but the way we manually, in a professional intervention, is not about talking somebody to go to treatment. It's about bringing the family system together to really change their behaviors. Because most families out there, you know, I just worked with a family today, and she might even be on there right now. I mean, it's just so heartbreaking. But most families don't know how to put consequences into place, healthy boundaries into place in order to motivate their loved one. They don't want to upset them while they're killing themselves. So again, without consequences, we're not motivated. And just think of yourself. I mean, think of yourself, even if you don't have an addiction. If something is unhealthy in your life, we normally don't change an unhealthy habit unless if there's consequences. If there's an unhealthy habit that doesn't have consequences, we'll stay in that unhealthy habit. So even normal people that don't have an addiction will do the same thing. So to get an addict to stop, you really need an interventionist that's skilled, that's going to go in and dissect the family system and figure out what are the I like to say the 5 most important things in their life. So what are the 5 most important things in their life? What are those things that you're going to find that's going to motivate them to want to change? So like my dog died, but before she died, if you would have done anything to that dog, taken that dog away from me, I would have flew around the country. I would have went to treatment for a year. I don't care. I would have did anything for that dog because I'm a dog person. I love dogs, and that dog was so attached to me. I was afraid she would die of old age and not know that I was there for her. So I would have done anything for that dog. You know, my relationship, I don't want to lose my relationship. So if you're going to say, Ken, you don't go to treatment, you're going to lose your relationship, I'm going to go to treatment. Well, maybe. No, I'm kidding. So, but in all honesty, you know, you have to find the 5 most important things, and in a loving, respectful way, not in a punitive way, loving and respectful, and say, if you're going to continue to make bad choices to put drugs or alcohol in your system and kill yourself, I can't watch you do that anymore. I can't do it. How can you even ask me to do that? So I have to put these boundaries into place. I have to have you arrested if that's the case. I have to kick you out. I have to, turn you into work. Whatever the concept, I have to take your dog away from you. Whatever those 5 things are, figuring out what they are and bringing them all to a head at once. This is where I think we're getting off topic because I thought we were talking about why treatment doesn't work, but now we're going into intervention. The other question.
This is what people wanted to hear.
That's true. That I was going to say that would be next week's, but I'm glad these questions are here because, we need to motivate the person where it's like the doctor or the pilot that has that voice that's saying, if you pick up a drink, this is going to happen. And that's got to be consistent for a long time. The downfall that normally happens is a family member will say, oh, Ken, I really like that one. I pay their cell phone bill, and I'm going to call every one of those phone numbers on that cell phone bill, and I'm going to let them know that my son is going to be watched, and we're going to hire a private investigator. And anytime there's any illegal activity going on, we're going to have everybody arrested. I love that one, Ken. I'm going to do that one. Let me start calling now. And I'm like, you can't pick and choose which ones you do. You have to do the whole thing because what happens with the with the addict mind is they get used to, so let's say a young adult, I'm going to turn off your phone. That's a big one for young adults. So you turn off their phone. By the end of the week, they get used to not using their phone, and they're on the computer. You go talking to people on Facebook. They're talking to people on social media. They don't need a phone anymore. They figure out how to live without that. So if you don't have all of them to come to a head, we're really doing a disservice because they get used to living that way. Like, addicts will say, I'll never, ever be homeless. And then all of a sudden, they're homeless living in their car. They get used to living in their car. Oh, I can never live without my phone. Their phone gets turned off and they don't have a phone. They get used to living without a phone. Then they say, oh, I will never shoot up heroin. And then all of a sudden they're shooting heroin up. So their ethics and their goals keep getting further and further away. So that's why it's important when you do an intervention, you got to bring all of them to a head. So any other questions? Because I want to get back to why treatment doesn't work.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of intervention questions, and maybe you can tell people that, we'll get to the questions in the comments specifically, but yeah, why don't we go back to why treatment doesn't work?
Yeah, and if you have intervention questions after this, I'm not going to ignore them. I'm still going to answer them. So, no matter when you watch this, any kind of questions at all, please send them in and I'll definitely answer them. But I really want to get back to why treatment doesn't work, because when somebody goes to treatment 31 times and they're not getting better, there's a reason behind that. So the second reason is because the voice isn't loud enough. The consequence isn't consistent. So they're in treatment and families will tell you they feel better, they smell better, they look better. So, oh my God, they want to come home. We're going to buy them that plane ticket and get them home. So that's another reason why treatment doesn't work, is that we need to figure out what's the most important to that individual and then create it and turn it into a reality if they choose to leave treatment. The other part that's really, really important, and this is where most treatment centers focus on, and you have to have this part, is the carrot. What are their goals? What do they want out of life? You really need to tap into that and figure out what their individual goals are. Because I'll tell you right now, with all these people watching right now, I'll tell you right now, I don't think there's one of us that has an identical goal. Not one of us. So each individual will have a different goal in life, and you got to show them a path that they could reach that goal by being in recovery. So working with them for reaching their goals is so important. But I think a lot of treatment centers do a good job, excuse me, on that one. I think that's one of the ones, that they do work on. But again, you need the whole thing. You need the carrot and you need the stick, and you need to keep them moving in the right direction and on track, because that's where they fall off track. The other reason that treatment doesn't work is because most insurances will pay for 90 days. They'll pay for detox, residential, PHP, IOP, and then OP. And normally that process takes about 90 days. And then they'll go into OP and they'll be able to see a therapist, maybe for a year. But the reality is that's not enough. You're in treatment for 90 days. You're given the tools to help start liking yourself, because there's no way that you're going to go from, hating yourself to loving yourself in 90 days. That isn't going to happen. And again, that's another thing most addicts don't even realize they have. But if they ask themselves this way, if you're an addict out there watching this right now, and you're, saying, tomorrow I'm not going to use, tomorrow I'm not going to do this, I'm going to get that life, I'm going to reach that goal that I want. But yet tomorrow morning when you wake up, the first thing that you do is looking on how you're going to get that cycle going again. How am I going to get the money to pay for the drug? And how am I going to get the drug? Your mind is hardwired and goes to autopilot. It's automatic. Boom, you're there. Boom, you're there. And again, that's not your fault. That's not your fault. So to break that cycle in 90 days is almost inhumane to ask somebody to do that. Because yeah, they could do it for 90 days when they're in the bubble. They're in sober living, they're going to treatment, they're with some peers around them. And then they're like, congratulations, you're done, you graduated, wish you well. And that's the missing link. The missing link that the doctors and the pilots and all the other people that they get is they have a continuum of care. They don't just go to 90 days of treatment and then they're done. They go to 90 days of treatment, and then after they're done, there's structure and accountability. Every treatment center I know, they give you a recommendation when you leave. 90 meetings in 90 days. I don't care if it's SMART, recovery, AA, NA, whatever it is, some form of, or your church. Maybe it's a religion, So you go to your church or something like that. And so there's going to be a continuum care plan. But what happens, we forget how bad it was when we checked in 90 days ago. We don't remember how bad it was. So that continuum care plan, it's really nice. Thank you very much. But that's not for me. That's not for me. And that's why people rotate and go through numerous doors of treatment over and over again, because there's no accountability to keep them on track. There's nobody calling them and saying, hey, did you make it to your IOP meeting? Did you put in those applications yesterday that you said you were going to put in? Did you go get that drug test that you said you were going to do?
And it's interesting that you talked about that, because Sarah, hi Sarah.
Hi Sarah.
She just said she was in treatment a long time in detox, but when I came out, I used more when I came out than I did prior. Does this mean I just wasn't ready to get clean? By the way, now November 4th will be 8 years clean.
Woohoo, Sarah, congratulations. I'm so happy for you. Oh my God, such a great example. For me, what that means is that when you're trying numerous times to get clean and you go to detox for that amount of time, it isn't that you didn't want to get clean, because that young man that I did the intervention on that went to treatment 31 times, he didn't want, nobody wants to get up in the morning and dream of being a junkie. Nobody wants that, so no, you did want it. It's just that it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough treatment. It wasn't enough of that loud voice that motivated you to get into detox saying, if you do relapse, this is going to happen. So it's a combination. And then you didn't have the person following you after treatment, not just detox, but finished treatment, saying, hey, remember what your goal is? Remember your goal? You want to go to school and you want to help people and you want to get a job. You're not going to get that by doing drugs. You're going to get that by getting a sponsor. Let's say this is your treatment recommendations after treatment, your continuum care plan. You're going to get a sponsor. You're going to go to 7 meetings a week, 90 meetings in 90 days. You're going to work with a therapist, and you're going to get med compliant if you need medication. So you're going to do all of those things, and somebody's going to work with you in doing them for the first year. So somebody's going to work with you for 1 year after you get out of treatment to make sure that each week, because on week 1, the first month, you're probably going to say, oh, I want to find a job if you're not working. But in that week or that month, you'll find a job. So then the next week, the next month's coming out, there may be other goals that you have. Hey, I really want to learn, go back to school. So, okay, let's, what do you do to go back to school? So somebody follows up with you. Did you put in your application for school? Did you make that appointment with your sponsor? And the way I like to explain this one, because it's so powerful, Personally, I have a drug addiction, alcoholism, sex addiction, love addiction, all kinds of addictions that I have. And the last one that I'm dealing with is a food addiction. And this week, it is 2 years that I've been going to the gym every day. I don't like going to the gym every day. I hate going to the gym every day. But I go to the gym because I was 270 pounds and I hated the way I felt. So again, the voice, you're not healthy, you're not healthy. But the voice over here is telling me, go eat, go eat, go eat. Go eat some sugar, go eat this. So this voice has to be louder. So I understand when somebody gets out of treatment and that voice starts playing and there's nobody helping them. So what I did is I hired a trainer at the gym. So I go to the gym because I have that consistency with somebody helping me and keeping me on track. Because left to my own devices, I'm going to be sitting on that couch back here, watching TV, eating ice cream and pizza. That's what I'm going to be doing. But I hired somebody to help me, to keep me accountable, to obtain my goal, to stay healthy. So that's what a case manager is, and that's what long-term continuum care is. That's the missing link. There's another place. Is something wrong, Eric?
I'm trying to manage it and having a hard time. So if you're making comments, I will get to you shortly.
He's reading the comments over here and trying to get them to us. So apologize. And again, thank you for being on. And I'm really excited about answering your questions. I promise we'll get to all of them. And if you're not on or you're just joining us, we're talking about why treatment doesn't work. And treatment doesn't work. The first one was because, what was the first one? You didn't write it down, Eric? It didn't work. I'm kidding. It doesn't work. I'm kidding. I was just teasing with him. I remember. Treatment doesn't work because it's not long enough. It's just not long enough. So, nobody could get sober in 30 days like the old model, and you definitely can't get sober in 90 days. So we're talking about aftercare right now, why it doesn't work in aftercare. So the aftercare is like, there it is, crisis. The number 2 is crisis. So, and the second reason, so the first one, not long enough. The second one, can you write this down? First one, it's not long enough. The second one, it's crisis. So, there isn't that voice in your head that's telling you, oh my God, I relapsed because, I got sober because my spouse said they're gonna leave me. So now all of a sudden I'm clean and sober, and we're addicts. We know how to manipulate our loved ones. So we tell our family, you know what? I did that 30 days. I am feeling so much better. Thank you for telling me you were gonna leave me. Thank you for telling me that everything was going to work. And you're right, I did it. So, that's a good one. Not consistent. And number 3 was consequences not consistent. Thank you. Thank you for putting those up there. I really appreciate you guys giving me that feedback and you remembering. Eric's wrote them down now. Yeah. So now we're on the next one, is that where treatment isn't long enough, and the accountability. That trainer at the gym kept me on track with my eating disorder and my exercise. So what we need is somebody like the doctor diversion program has. They have a case manager that checks into their drug testing company. They have somebody that checks in with their therapist. They have somebody that checks in with them. We check in also with case management. We check in with the families. So we have the whole family system participating to support recovery. So the other place that I hope you find interesting, that's also very successful, because the treatment, let me go back a little bit, because I forgot to mention this, why treatment doesn't work. When I got sober in 1989, 30 days of treatment had a 3 to 6% success rate. We're in 2018, and 30 days of treatment has a 3 to 8% success rate. Same exact thing. So I had a good friend of mine that's a doctor in Florida. He got sober through the doctor diversion programs over 33 years ago. I got sober 29 years ago. So that program has been working for over 30 years and helping doctors stay sober and doing an amazing job. The other one that has accountability in the recovery process is drug courts. I love drug courts. Drug courts are one of my favorite programs because they call it a nudge from the judge. You know, they don't want to go to prison, so the judge gives them an opportunity. You go to meetings, you get a therapist, and you check in with your case manager, and you randomly drug test. So if you're doing all those things, they take your felony and probably wash it out or turn it down to a misdemeanor, as long as you're staying on track with your recovery process. So again, they have a 3 to 5 year process. Number 4, insurance, 90 days, and 5, accountability. Thank you very much. Woo-hoo.
And someone commented about that. Susie mentioned that
Hi, Susie.
One of the troubles is that treatment needs to be more affordable. Most people can't afford to be in treatment, and if they have insurance, is usually limited to 1 to 3 months. And I don't think you're talking about just treatment, are you?
No, we're talking about treatment and accountability. So, Susie, you're absolutely right. It needs to be more affordable, and I'll get to that one. Can you put that one down, that I don't forget affordable? Because that's another reason why treatment doesn't work, and we'll go. That's a great question, Susie, and I'm going to definitely get to that one, because that's the one that breaks my heart. So the drug court programs, when they're working with somebody, they get a case manager, and the case manager follows them 2, 3, 4 years, right? The lifetime or the time that they're in that program, somebody's checking in with them and making sure they're staying on track. Just like that trainer at the gym with me, making sure I'm staying on track. So it isn't just about the disease as a drug addict, it's human nature. It's human nature. Just think of yourself, even if you're not an addict and you're watching this, just think about how hard it is to do things that you want to do and you don't get them done. But if you have somebody working with you to hold you accountable and remind you what you want to do, and that's why you have to take these steps. In the program, they say you suit up and show up. So it's similar to that. You're suiting up and you're showing up, and someone's giving you a gentle, loving nudge. And with that loving nudge, the doctors get it, the pilots get it. It may not be that loving. It may not be that loving, their little nudge. And the judges, they have case managers and they give them the nudge. But with case management and aftercare, you have somebody that's going to give you that nudge. And right now, we'll bring it to the next one, the next reason why it doesn't work. The next reason why is that long-term affordable care, or that long-term continuum of care. That long-term care is, you're right, Susie, it's not affordable. People can't afford that. It's too expensive. Doctors do it because they have to keep their license, and they have the money. The drug courts do it because the state pays for it. The county that they're doing the drug court in, they have case managers working with them, but they pay for it. So how does the everyday person afford it? It's just not right. They're getting the 90 days of treatment if they're lucky. If they're lucky, they're getting the 90 days of treatment. So how do we get it where they could afford it? So right now, Eric and I were lucky enough that a few years back, we got the aftercare accredited by Joint Commission. And those of you that don't know what Joint Commission is, it's a program where people, where treatment centers and hospitals get this extra level of accreditation. So they get this extra level of accreditation. And once they get that accreditation, insurance usually, looks up to it and says, thank you for being more accountable in your practices. And they pay you, on time, or they'll pay you more than or they'll even pay you. Sometimes some insurance policies will say, we're not even going to pay you if you don't have Joint Commission accreditation. So we went to Joint Commission and we worked with them. And now on the behavioral health side, they have case management. So now some insurances, we're so grateful, some insurances are now paying for that aftercare. So we're really fortunate that we got that done. If you guys have any connections, because I would like to get, I would love to get this done where, everybody, even with government funded insurance, gets this aftercare. And the reason why I think it's so important is the first reason, it's going to save more lives, period. It's going to save more lives. If we could get people with consequences, because we have the family system come together, they create consistent consequences and remind them of their goals. So we have that part of the process, but then we also have somebody checking in with the family and the person that's suffering from the addiction. So now we have that for that long-term continuum of care. So now we get it paid for. If we could get Medicare to pay for this, they will save millions of dollars. Where we have that evidence from, people are like, well, okay, sure. Where do you think you got that from? Where we get that evidence from is look this one up if you don't believe me. And if you want, I could send a link to it if you send me a message and want to know more about it. But Humana, the insurance company Humana, they did they did case management on the medical side. So they did it where they followed people after, as people with high risk getting out of the hospital. They sent over a case manager. They made sure that, they were taking their medication as prescribed. They were, that helped, like the trainer at the gym. They were given that assistance. Because they did that, the first year they saved $800 million. $800 million is what they report that they saved on other injuries or continue to get sick because they're not taking their medication. So they've already seen that this type of support in the medical side is already working. So now taking that on the behavioral side is really where it's important. Let's bring it over to the behavioral side. And now all these readmissions, I know somebody brought that one up. You go to treatment and you know how much money that costs the insurance company, and you go again and you go again and you go again. And it's that vicious circle. If we had somebody following them, they would save all that money, all that legal money, because they're breaking laws and ending up back in court. So they'll be saving money that way. They won't be going back in the hospital because they overdosed again and they had the ambulance come get them and they had to revive them in the emergency room. So they'll be saving money there. So they'll be saving so much money by paying a little bit for a year after treatment. So again, I'm bringing it back to the trainer at the gym. So it's pretty simple, the reasons why treatment hasn't worked. We don't have enough people. It's not enough time. There isn't enough consequences. And there definitely isn't that long-term continuum of care that drug courts give and doctor diversion programs give. So any other questions, Art?
We got a bunch. We got questions.
Thank you again, everyone. I really appreciate you being here tonight.
We got questions on mental health and the link between mental health and addictions. Okay. We have questions on MAT. We have questions on food addiction. And I think because we only have a few minutes left, we'll want to save those. We can only go to 7. So okay. I think we'll save those. I'm taking notes on the topic. So maybe if you could encourage people to send in topic ideas.
Oh, I'd love that. Yeah. If you have any other topic ideas that you want to hear about, we're going to be doing this every Sunday night. I'm really, really excited about doing this because, again, I don't have all the answers. You have answers. You have answers that if we come together, we could create something that's bigger than all these people that are dying. I mean, 72,000 last year. Do you know how many people that is? That's 197 people a day. 197 people a day are dying in this country. We need to do something different. Treatment the way it is right now, I'm sorry. I know a lot of people that I have a treatment center. What we're doing in the industry, what payers are paying for, the whole system is not working. People are going to treatment 31 times and they're only 31 years old. I hear this every single day, every day. How many people go through treatment numerous times? So treatment isn't working. I need your input. I need to work with you. We need to have a grassroots, mission out there that we all work together and spread one message. I was just in another town. I'm going out. Where are we going to, Erica?
West Virginia.
We're going to West Virginia in December, and we're going to work with the city, and the town, and getting all the elected officials involved, and, getting people that, live in that community and want to do something together. I was just in one town, and we had all these people that have beautiful hearts and beautiful missions on figuring out how do we help these poor people that are dying? What are we going to do for them? And yet everybody had a different answer. Everybody had a different solution. That one doesn't work, and this one doesn't work, and they're bad mouthing this one. And we can't do that anymore. We got to come together. We all have the right reasons behind this. We all have the right mission, but we have to come together and we have to work together and create one message for the suffering addicts and the families that are in so much pain. We create together. I'm not saying it's my message. That's not it. I'm saying we create a message, and it's one message so the addicts and their families get one message that's going to help them and make it work. So we create that for them, and then we start working as a team, and all of us together, coming together. There is no competition. If you're in one church organization that has a program that's fighting for people, if you have another organization that's selling clothes and raising money, that to a mission to get them to break the stigma, whatever your mission is, we are not in competition. There's 197 people dying a day. We are not in competition. We need to work together. And that's my goal for this series, is figuring out a message that we give people, and all of us working together with a common interest to break those numbers down, break them down, because they have not been going down in years. They've only been going up the death totals. So that's really my goal in this. So we have a few more minutes and we could answer. And thank you everyone that's there. If you're just joining us, listen to the prior tape that we have here. Ask any questions. I need your input. I can't do this. I mean, I don't know I did it. I'll talk a little bit about what I ended up doing today. We were doing an intervention training today here in Palm Springs, and a mother reached out to me about her daughter on Facebook. So thank you, Facebook Live and Facebook. She reached out to me, and you could see it under her comments, asking for help for her daughter. And she drove all the way out from Arizona to Palm Springs to meet with us. And, the mom admitted she wanted help also. She wanted help. So it wasn't only for her daughter. So I scrambled because my heart broke seeing this young woman and her mother both suffering. I don't have it within me. I have a small treatment center. I don't have a lot of beds. I don't have, treatment centers all over the country, but I knew I had to help. I knew I had to help. So we scrambled around and we moved people around, and we opened up 2 beds in our detox facility for the mother and daughter. And we brought it back to them and said, you could come to treatment today. We're going to put you both in treatment, and we don't care. It doesn't matter about money. We don't care about that. They were both crying. They're both in pain. we need to help these families. Well, mom wasn't crying. You know, her drug of choice doesn't have her connected that way, but the daughter's crying, and we wanted to help them, and the daughter didn't want to go in. And that's what I'm talking about with the consequences. You know, we need consequences to motivate, and mom just wouldn't do it. Mom wouldn't say, I'm checking in, and you could just stay in the car and come in the middle of the night if you want and check in. But I'm not staying out there. So mom went out in the car and she took off and drove away with her. So that's what breaks my heart, and that's why I'm here. And her daughter's drug of choice was, what's the one that's killing everyone? Fentanyl. That's her drug of choice at a young little, I want to say a little girl. She's a young adult. It's so heartbreaking, and that's where everybody's overdosing and dying these days. So my heart is breaking for these people, and we as a team, we as a community need to do something together. So I'm really, really excited about working with all of you and making this, you know, a team effort and a team solution, and all of us giving that mother the tools that she needed to fight this. You know, you don't just need that mom to check into treatment with her, but we got to get the whole family system involved. We need grandma involved. We need the ex-husband involved, the other ex-husband involved that mom has another kid with. We need everybody involved to put a family agreement together and help save these lives, because one person can't do it. One person can't do it. And even if the addict wants it, if you're watching this and you're an addict, you know, I love it, because I travel all over the country, you know, doing interventions and, you know, doing workshops. I travel all over, and I love it because, you know, people watch the show and they say, oh my God, I love what you do on the show. You know, can you help us do this? And I was like, absolutely. I'd love to come to your community and help you. So if you're watching this and you're an addict out there, because that's the one thing that they mostly tell me is, oh my God, I was so high when I used to watch that show. I was like, what? You're high watching the show? How is that fun? But they're watching the show and they're getting high, and they realize that, you know, it doesn't work for them. So if that's you out there that's suffering, you know, pick up the phone, and you're the one that's saying, today I don't want to do it. Today, I'm not going to do it. You know, I'm not going to do it today. I swear, you know, I'm not going to do it. And if that's you, pick up the phone, because you can't do it alone. I'm sorry. It's almost impossible, and it's inhumane to ask you to do it alone. So if that's you, please pick up the phone, go on, send us a message, do whatever you need to do. Call somebody, I don't care who it is, just reach out and ask for help. Ask for help so you could have hope. Because my goal in this is every single person, like I talked about. I hate to always, I want to end on a positive note, because I think we're almost done here. Yeah. But I want to end it on a positive note. Remember I said everybody needs consequences that are completely loud? My goal, and that every person has 5 things that they can't live without, and we got to figure out what they are. My goal is every person out there, every one of you has a different goal, And I want to help you reach that goal, because as a human being on earth, you deserve to reach that goal. That is your gift of being a human in this world, is reaching your goal, because it's not my goal. It's your goal that's in your mind. Like, I have a goal, you have a goal, we all have goals. And my prayer is that you reach your goal. How can I get you to reach your goal? I surpassed my goal. I surpassed it. And I keep going further. And it's like, how does this happen? But my goal is to get you to reach your goal out of that misery, because there's nothing worse than watching that mother and that daughter in so much pain And it's not the daughter's fault. It's not the mother's fault. They had horrible, horrible upbringings and lives. They had a rough, rough time. So it's not their fault. This was the card that they were dealt, and they don't even believe that their dreams could be a reality. I believe their dreams can be a reality. And I want to see that happen for everybody that's watching. So with that being said, thank you for being here tonight. I mean, oh my God, there's a bunch of people. I will get to your questions. If you're watching this after, please send in your questions. I am so excited to answer them and get back to you next week on Facebook Live. Thank you. What's that?
Tell people about